Welcome, I am Preed and this is Banished. This is a guilty pleasure for me. I've already clocked in at this point around 330 hours into this game. In my Steam library, it is the highest amount of hours I've sunk into a game. This is something that I keep coming back to from time to time. The premise of the game is pretty simple. You're basically there with a ragtag of survivors, in a sense, in a barren place, and you've got to try and build a settlement. You have various tools to help you do this, but it's basically down to you. You can't really beat the game, however, you can definitely fail in it, and if you fail, it can be an epic fail. This is a game where I quite often enjoy it for the simple principle that I turn off all the sound and I either listen to a audiobook or a podcast in the background whilst I play, and it's quite an enjoyable experience. When starting a new game, you're presented with this window. You can give your town a name, and below it is a code that you can enter. It accepts up to 9 digits, and this will dictate what map you will get. You can put in any value that you want. One of the little things that people used to do is try putting in their birthdays as a challenge. From there, you then have 3 different map sizes. So this is a huge number of maps for you to be able to play on. Then you have different terrain options, so you can play in valleys or mountains. And then you've got your weather effects and your starting loadout. Then you can pick your starting difficulty. This basically tells you what you start the game with. Easy gives you houses pre-built, some seeds, some animals, so it gives you a good start. Medium takes away the buildings, gives you less things to start with, and hard gives you practically nothing. So there is definitely challenge built into this. This game was made by one guy. To his credit, he has done a fantastic job with this game. The UI is simple, but it also gives you all the tools that you need to do. As you can see, you have a range of buttons at the bottom right hand corner, and this gives you access to all the tools that you use in the game. Everything from building your houses for your settlers to live in, through to resource management, being able to make your own crops, build other structures that will enable you to get other food sources in, like fishing or going out and hunting. It'll also give you other places to be able to convert raw materials into other things. So you get a tailor for making clothes, you get a blacksmith for making tools. The challenge in this game comes from trying to actually keep everyone happy, well, and alive throughout the game. As this game has no real you can beat it option, the best thing that can be described to be able to vary the difficulty is actually trying to achieve the achievements in the games. These are like little landmarks that you can try and hit within the game itself, like trying to create a population whereby everyone's uneducated, or making a really big bridge. As you can see, I've been able to complete some of these, but I haven't actually finished all of the achievements yet. The game works pretty much how you'd expect. It is sort of a city builder in that sense, whereby you've got a population, you need to increase your population. To do that, you need to build homes. To do that, you need to get resources, and then you've got to keep everyone fed and warm whilst all this happens. The way that you interact with the game is very simple, easy to follow. There is a tutorial which goes through the basics, and the controls are very few, which again makes this a very easy game to get into. I've got a programmable mouse on my PC, so I actually have a profile on my mouse for this game where I've put the keybinds for being able to do various things all on through the mouse. So I don't even really pick up a keyboard to be able to play this game, which is really nice for a change. The game's not perfect. You'll encounter problems with the AI from time to time. For example, you might get into a situation where your settlers will actually end up dying off because they're having to walk too far to go and get food. Sometimes when you put a big structure down, which is known as the market, which is a centralized hub for resources that the settlers in the game can use, this can cause some problems sometimes, whereby it'll actually break the AI and it'll end up being like a giant magnet to the entire map, which means you can run into shortages in other sections of the map because what they're producing over in one section is actually being drained into another. But overall, it works pretty well. It gives you a good challenge. It makes you think about planning more, and given the wide range of maps and map sizes that you can play with, it is very much a matter of you get out of this game what you put into it. This game also supports add-ons, which is created by the community. In my list, as you can see, I actually have quite a few add-ons installed, but I only use one or two of them at a time. They do have scripts inside them that actually detect if they're incompatible, so when you select a add-on, instead of being green, it'll actually come up red to indicate that there's a confliction between the two and you may have problems on the load. I use the Colonial Charter add-on quite extensively in my gameplay. It adds so many new features, new crops, new buildings, new resource changes for you to follow, that it is like a complete overhaul to the game. This is the same map that I showed before, loaded up, but also with the Colonial Charter 1.6 add-on installed. This adds a lot of new types of buildings. If you go into the houses, you'll just see a huge range of what you have access to. This is applied across the board. It adds new complex ways of being able to manage your resources, and it adds a lot more resources into the game. It adds new crops, it adds new animals that you can keep. It adds so much that it's difficult to go into a simple breakdown, because when this add-on is turned on, the game gets a lot more depth to it. Instead of in the vanilla version of the game, whereby you just need to get one thing out to be able to turn it into another, with this mod, you get one thing, you turn it into another thing, which you can turn into another thing, which you can turn into another thing, which just adds, as I say, that depth to the game. And this is what keeps bringing me back. I like the challenge. I like the planning aspect of trying to think out potential problems that may hit you further down the line in the way that you play. Banished won't be for everyone, but I still remember the days that I used to play Settlers on my old Amiga. This game definitely brings that feeling back. I do like city builders, but I don't really enjoy the aspect when you've got to go into warring in with other factions. So the fact that this game doesn't do any of that, it is just purely down to you trying to build your own group of settlers, as to say, just suits me right down to the ground. If this game didn't have add-ons, I could have seen me putting this game down a long time ago. It is the work of the community that put up the add-ons that has continued to make this game enjoyable for me. The game isn't fast to play. It is best to play this nice and slow until you get the grips of how the actual game works. If you're looking for something that you want to have a challenge, then I wholeheartedly recommend Banished. Thank you for your time. I hope you found this useful, and have a good one.